students. Welcome to the lecture on wage and salary administration, and after the lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Explain the nature and scope of wages and salary. Describe the wage determination process. Discuss the factors influencing wage and salary administration. Define the theories of wages. Explain the systems of wage payment. Describe the wage differentials. Let's start with a brief introduction to wage and salary administration. Salary and wage administration is the process of compensating an organization's employees in accordance with accepted policy and procedures. An important component of a successful organization's policy for administering salaries and wages is monitoring and evaluating all employees' compensation to ensure that they're being paid appropriately, both with respect to others in the same organization and to the marketplace as a whole. It is important for small business owners to understand the difference between wages and salaries. A wage is based on hours worked. Employees who receive a wage are often called non-exempt. A salary is an amount paid for a particular job regardless of hours worked, and these employees are called exempt. The difference between the two is carefully defined by the type of position and the kinds of tasks that our employees perform. Now, we will talk about the nature and scope of wage and salary administration. Wage and salary administration refers to the establishment and implementation of sound policies and practices of employee compensation. It includes such areas as job evaluation, surveys of wage and salaries, analysis of relevant organizational problems, development and maintenance of wage structure, establishing rules for administrating wages, wage payment incentives, profit sharing, wage changes and adjustments, supplementary payments, control of compensation costs, and other related items. Wages and salary, meaning wages means all remuneration capable of being expressed in terms of money, which would, if the terms of the contract of employment, express or implied, were fulfilled, be payable to a person employed in respect of his or her employment or of work done in such employment. A salary is a form of periodic payment from an employer to an employee, which may be specified in an employment contract. It is contrasted with piece wages, where each job, hour, or other unit is paid separately rather than on a periodic basis. Here, we will talk about types of wages. 1. Minimum wage. Minimum wage is the one which provides not merely for bare sustenance of life, but also for the preservation of the efficiency of the workers. For this purpose, the minimum wage must also provide for some measure of education, medical requirements, and amenities. Minimum wage may be tied by an agreement between the management and the workers, but is usually determined through legislation. 2. Fair wage. Fair wage is understood in two ways. In a narrow sense, wage is fair if it is equal to the rates prevailing in the same trade and in the neighborhood for similar work. In a wider sense, it will be fair if it is equal to the predominant rate for similar work throughout the country and for traders in general. Irrespective of the way in which fair wage is understood, it can be fixed only by comparison with an accepted standard wage. 3. Living wage. Living wage is a step higher than fair wage. Living wage may be described as one which should enable the wage earner to provide for himself or herself and their family not only the bare essentials of life, like food, clothing, and shelter, but a measure of frugal comfort, including education for children, protection against ill health, requirements of essential social needs, and/or measure of insurance against the more important misfortunes, including old age. Now, we will talk about the objectives of wage and salary administration. To establish a fair and equitable compensation offering similar pay for similar work. To attract competent and qualified personnel. To retain the present employees by keeping wage levels in tune with competitive units. To keep labor and administrative costs in line with the ability of the organization to pay. To improve motivation and morale of employees and to improve union management relations. To protect a good image of the company and to comply with legal needs relating to wages and salaries. To establish job sequences and lines of promotion wherever applicable. To minimize the chances of favoritism while assigning the wage rates. Now, let's take a look at the principles of wage and salary administration. There are some principles which should be followed for an effective wage and salary administration. Wage policy should be developed keeping in view the interests of all concerned parties, viz. Employer, employees, the consumers, and the society. Wage and salary plans should be sufficiently flexible or responsive to changes in internal and external conditions of the organization. Efforts should be made to ensure that differences in pay for jobs are based on variations in job requirements such as skill, responsibility, efforts, and mental and physical requirements. Wage and salary administration plans must always be consistent with overall organizational plans and programs. Wage and salary administration plans must always be in conformity with the social and economic objectives of the country, like attainment of equality in income distribution and controlling inflation, etc. Components of wage and salary. An average employee in the organized sector is entitled to several benefits, both financial as well as non-financial. To be specific, typical remuneration of an employee comprises 1. Wages and salary. Wages represent hourly rates of pay, and salary refers to the monthly rate of pay, irrespective of the number of hours put in by an employee. Wages and salaries are subject to annual increments. They also differ from employee to employee and depend upon the nature of the job, seniority, and merit. 2. Incentives. Incentives depend upon productivity, sales, profit, or cost reduction efforts. Individual incentives are applicable to specific employee performance, where a given task demands group effort for completion. Incentives are paid to the group as a whole. The amount is later divided among group members on an equitable basis. 3. Fringe benefits. These include such motley crowd of employee benefits as Provident Fund, gratuity, medical care, hospitalization, accident relief, health and group insurance, canteen, uniform, recreation, and the like. 4. Perquisites. These are allowed to executive and include company car, club membership, paid holidays, furnished house, stock option scheme, and the like. Perquisites are offered to retain competent executives. 5. Non-monetary benefits. These include challenging job responsibilities, recognition of merit, growth prospects, competent supervision, comfortable working conditions, and job sharing and flexi time. Incentive systems of wage payment. The wage plan should be highly incentive. This means it should encourage workers to take more initiative and interest in the work, produce more, and also earn more. The wage plan which serves all these purposes is called an incentive wage plan. Such an incentive plan is beneficial to both employers and employees, as well as it is useful for the rapid industrial growth. Features and requisites of a good incentive plan. Encourage initiative. A good incentive plan should create initiative among workers to work more and to earn more. It must offer more income to workers and more profit production to the firm or company. Definiteness and flexibility. A good incentive plan should be definite. This means frequent changes should not be made as regards to rates, etc., as such changes create confusion and doubts in the minds of workers. Such plan must give clear benefits to workers. Wide coverage and equitable. A good incentive plan should not be for employees in certain departments only. It should have a wide coverage, and almost all employees should be covered in such a plan. Such wide coverage makes the plan popular at all levels and among all categories of workers. Guarantee of minimum wage payment. An incentive wage plan should include certain minimum wage payment to every worker per month. This should be irrespective of the production he or she gives. Such provision of guaranteed payments creates a sense of security and confidence among the workers. Scientific fixation of standard workload. Under the incentive plan, extra payment is given for the extra work. Example, work which is over and above certain quality. Justice to employer and employee. A good incentive plan should do justice to both parties. Let's talk about the wage determination process. Wage determination is a complex process. This process consists of several steps like job analysis. Job analysis describes the duties, responsibilities, working conditions, and interrelationships between the job as it is and the other jobs with which it is associated. It attempts to record and analyze details concerning the training, skills, required efforts, qualifications, abilities, experience, and responsibilities expected of an employee. Wage survey. In determining the wages for a specific job, it is very necessary to work as to what wages are being given for the same job in other enterprises. Group similar jobs into pay grades. After the results of job analysis and salary surveys have been received, the committee can turn to the task of assigning pay rates to each job, but it will usually want to first group jobs into pay grades. A pay grade comprises the jobs of approximately equal difficulty or importance as determined by job evaluation. Price each pay grade. The next step is to assign pay rates to pay grades. Assigning pay rates to each pay grade is usually accomplished with a wage curve. The wage curve depicts graphically the pay rates currently being paid for jobs in each pay grade relative to the points of ranking assigned to each job or grade by the job evaluation. Wage administration rules. The development of rules of wage administration has to be done in the next step. It is considered advisable in the interests of the concern and the employees that the information about average salaries and ranges in the salaries of the group should be made known to the employees concerned. For secrecy in this matter may create dissatisfaction, and it may also vitiate the potential motivating effects of disclosure. Deductions which may be made from wages. The deductions from wages of an employed person may be of the certain kinds like deductions for fines, deductions for absence from duty, deductions for damage or loss of goods or money, deductions for Louise accommodation supplied by employer, deductions for amenities and services supplied by employer, deductions for recovery of advances, deductions for recovery of loan from Labor Welfare Fund, deductions for recovery of loan for house building, deductions for income tax payable by the employed person, deductions for payments to cooperative societies, deductions for payment of insurance premium, deductions for payment of contribution to a welfare fund, deductions for absence from duty. Deductions may be made on account of the absence of an employed person from duty from the place or places whereby the terms of his or her employment they are required to work. The absence may be for the whole or any part of the period during which he or she is so required to work, but the ratio between the amount of such deductions and the wages payable shall not exceed the ratio between the period of absence and total period within such wage period. Deductions for damage or loss. A deduction for damage to or loss of goods expressly entrusted to the employed person for custody or for loss of money for which he or she is required to account shall not exceed the amount of the damage or loss caused to the employer by the neglect or default of the employed person. Deductions for services. A deduction for house accommodation and such amenities and services supplied by the employer as have been authorized by the state's government shall not be made from the wages of an employed person unless such services have been accepted by he or she as a term employment or otherwise. Deductions in respect of these services shall not exceed the value thereof. Deductions for recovery of loans. Deductions for loans granted for house building or other purposes, and the interest due in respect thereof, approved by the state government, shall be subject to any rules made by the state government regulating the extent to which such loans may be granted and the rate of interest payable thereon. Now we will discuss about the factors influencing wage and salary administration. The wage payment is an important factor affecting the labor management relations. A number of factors thus influence the remuneration payable to the employees. These factors can be categorized into external factors. External factors influencing wages and salaries are demand and supply. The labor market conditions, or demand and supply forces, operate at the national and local levels and determine organizational wage structure. When the demand of a particular type of labor is more and supply is less, then the wages will be more. Cost of living. The wage rates are directly influenced by cost of living of a place. The workers will accept a wage which may ensure them a minimum standard of living. Wages will also be adjusted according to price index number. The increase in price index will erode the purchasing power of workers, and they will demand higher wages. Trade unions' bargaining power. The wage rates are also influenced by the bargaining power of trade unions. The stronger the trade union, the higher is the wage rates. The strength of a trade union is judged by its membership, financial position, and type of leadership. Unions' last weapon is strike, which may also be used for getting wage increases. Government legislation. To improve the working conditions of workers, the government may pass legislation for fixing minimum wages of workers. This may ensure them a minimum level of living. In underdeveloped countries, bargaining power of labor is weak, and employers try to exploit workers by paying them low wages. Economy. Economy also has its impact on wage and salary fixation. While it may be possible for some organizations to thrive in a recession, there is no doubt that the economy affects remuneration decisions. A depressed economy will probably increase the labor supply. This, in turn, should lower the going wage rate. Internal factors. The important internal factors affecting wage and salary decisions are ability to pay. The ability to pay of an enterprise will influence wage rates to be paid. If the concerns are running into losses, then it may not be able to pay a higher wage rate. A profitable concern may pay more to attract good workers. Job requirements. Basic wages depend largely on the difficulty level and physical and mental effort required in a particular job. The relative worth of a job can be estimated through job evaluation. Simple, routine tasks that can be done by many people with minimum skills receive relatively low pay. Management strategy. The overall strategy which a company pursues should determine to remuneration to its employees. Where the strategy of the organization is to achieve rapid growth, remuneration should be higher than what competitors pay. Wage and salary administration presents the analytical framework for reward systems. There are mainly three types of theories of wage. 1. Economic theories. These theories can be broadly classified into two categories. The theories that explain wages predominantly in terms of factors that influence the supply price of labor. The theories that consider wages as being determined primarily by factors which influence the demand price of labor. Though the wages theory's important policy implications some relevance for certain occupations or in certain regions, none of them are adequate as general theory regions having universal applicability. 2. Subsistence theory. This theory is based on assumption that labor, like any other commodity, is purchased and sold in the market, and in the long run, the value of labor trends to be equal to the cost of production. The labor cost is equal to the amount which is necessary for the maintenance of the worker and his or her family at the subsistence level. 3. The surplus value theory. This theory is the supply of labor, always tended to be kept in excess of the demand for it by a special feature of the capitalist wage system. Also, the worker did not get full capitalist wage system. Also, the worker did not get full compensation for the time spent on the job. Now, let us talk about the meaning and concepts of time rate system. This is the oldest method of wage payment. The time is made a basis for determining wages of a person. The wages are paid to the time spent by workers irrespective of his or her output of work done. The wage rates are fixed for an hour, a day, a week, or month. The time spent at work is recorded and wages are paid according to it. Merits. Simplicity. The method of wage payment is very simple. The workers will not find any difficulty in calculating the wages. The time spent by a person multiplied by the rate will calculate his or her wages. Security. Workers are guaranteed minimum wages for the time spent by them. There is no link between wages and output. Wages are paid irrespective of output. Demerits. No incentive for efficiency. This method does not distinguish between efficient and inefficient workers. The payment of wages is related to time and not output. Thus, the method gives no incentive for producing more. Low production. Since wage is not related to output, workers may be producing at a slower rate. The responsibility for increasing production may mostly lie on supervisors. Because of low production, overhead expenses per unit will go up. Piece rate system, meaning and concepts. Under piece system of payment, wages are based on output and not on time. There is no consideration for time taken in completing a task. A fixed rate is paid for each unit produced, job completed, or an operation performed. Workers are not guaranteed minimum wages under this system. Merits. Wages linked to efforts. Under piece wage system, wages are linked to the output of a worker. The higher the output, the higher will be the wages. Workers will try to put in more and more because their wages will go up. Increase in production. Production goes up when wages are paid according to piece rate system. Workers will feel encouraged to increase output because their wages will also increase. Better utilization of equipment. The machines and other equipment will be put to maximum utilization. Workers may not like to keep the machines idle. Demerits. No guarantee of minimum wages. Under this system of payments, the workers are not guaranteed minimum wages. There is a direct relationship between output and wages. If a worker does not ensure certain production, then wages may also be uncertain. Poor quality of goods. The workers will bother more about the number of units produced rather than their quality. This results in the production of substandard goods unless otherwise more supervisors are appointed to keep watch on quality. Not suitable for beginners. The beginners will not be able to produce more goods because of less experience. They will earn much lower wages as compared to experienced workers because their rate of production will be low.
Now when I teach executives or master's students or undergraduate students about compensation, I ask them, what's the best way to pay a cucumber picker? Lots of people raise their hand and say it's by the piece. You should pay by the piece. That'll incent people to work harder, pick more cucumbers, work more quickly, and be more productive. But that's actually not a good idea. The reason is it's difficult. You have to understand the institutions, and big cucumbers aren't very valuable. Turns out middle-sized cucumbers, called number twos, are the most valuable. And paying by just the piece, even in a simple case where it seems obvious on how you ought to pay workers, would be the wrong way in the cucumber picking situation and many other situations. One occupation that some people think is like a piece rate is at the very, very high end of the income distribution, which is executives of publicly held United States corporations. The reason being that many people think that one important measure of the productivity of the organization is the stock price, and it's easily measured. However, just paying executives based on stock price can lead to problems, and therefore many compensation programs for senior executives are obviously based on elements other than just stock price. There are many situations where we'd want to pay by the piece or pay for productivity, but in fact it's very complicated to do that because it's difficult to decide what is the productivity, what is the thing that we should be measuring. That's why there are compensation professionals designing innovative ways to pay people all the time.
In business, industrial relations, and HR terms, wage differentials means the difference in wages between workers with different skills in the same industry or between those with comparable skills in different industries or localities. Types of wage differentials. These differentials can be grouped to facilitate comprehension under some categories like occupational skill wage differentials, industrial wage differentials, area or geographical wage differentials, sex wage differentials, union, non-union wage differentials, age, seniority wage differentials. Now, in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. An average employee in the organized sector is entitled to several benefits, both financial as well as non-financial. The wage rates are directly influenced by cost of living of a place. The workers will accept a wage which may ensure them a minimum standard of living. A salary is a form of periodic payment from an employer to an employee, which may be specified in an employment contract. A good incentive plan should create initiative among workers to work more and to earn more. It must offer more income to workers and more profit production to the firm or company. Minimum wage is the one which provides not merely for bare sustenance of life, but also for the preservation of the efficiency of the workers.